Hello, and welcome to another episode of Is There More, the show that uncovers how successful creators transform their darkest moments into deeper connections and creative breakthroughs. I am your host, Megan A. Tully, and I'm listening. Today's guest is a creator who made dance her reason to live. From overcoming perfectionism and an eating disorder to leaving Hollywood behind to live a more balanced and joyful life, welcome, Victoria Neukom.
Lovely feet, great feet. Look at those feet.
Great everything.
Can we see the trophies?
I'm not trying to show my childhood better to the world, actually. I haven't even showed it to nobody, so wait,
Come on, just show us the trophies really quick.
who can see these?
I can't see them.
I could bring one to you if you
They're
want.
not on the screen at all. Yeah, bring one and tell me the story of it. Oh, that's beautiful.
Girl, these trophies are from like the smallest little dance, like local talent shows and stuff like that. So,
They're not real to you.
they're not like a symbolism of I was a dancer because it was like my studio was like not about competitions, or else I'd probably have like a whole room full of them because girls do competitions like every weekend, and I wasn't that type. I was like ballet bar, like,
Oh,
you
wow.
know, like that. So the trophies are from like local talent shows that I decided to compete in like before I was actually serious about dance for real. Um, so they're kind of like just stuff my mom likes to keep in here. They don't like actually represent like dance to me. So I don't know if it's like the most authentic B-roll option, but
What we got right now.
okay.
We can always pull stuff from online. That's
Yeah.
cool. I love that your mom keeps the trophies and like, it's kind of like her thing, but well, I feel like there's a lot to unpack in that. So what was the one relationship that you feel really shaped you as a person and shaped your entire life?
Oh, I'd say hands down the relationship with dance and I. Yeah, my relationship
Whoa,
with dance. Yeah.
your relationship with dance. Okay, is
Yeah,
there more about that?
there's definitely more. Um, I don't really know where to begin. You just want me to like spill it all out from the top, or how
Yeah,
does it work?
like let's start with like the obvious question is like what got you into dance in the first place, but we know, right? It was your mom. Is that is that true?
Well, I would say I'm a dancer from like the beginning. My grandma's clock would play music and I would be dancing in the living room. Like I was a dancer naturally, so naturally they put me in dance. Um, but yeah, I'd say dance shaped and built the entirety of who I am. Um, and I started dancing when I was 5, but I didn't take it very seriously until I was about like 10 or 11, I'd say. And then it took me down a tunnel of extreme control and restriction and perfectionism, addiction to perfection. Um, Also, I lived for it at the same time. So it was a very complex relationship that I had with dance. Yeah.
Okay, so you said it took you down, you were always a dancer. When the clock would play, you would dance. It was like really in you. And um so it shaped who you are. But I also heard you say that you it took you down like a path of like extreme control. And can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so as soon as I started realizing I had a talent for it and that I had a natural ability of movement and an understanding of it, I wasn't just satisfied at that level. I wanted to like really hone in and be the best. And my environment was actually a pressure cooker, I'd say, for that to happen because I'm from a small town and that kind of changes the level of talent you're around. And I'd say that, humbly, I was one of the best people there. So I always had this pressure on me to be the best, but at the same time, I was like extremely critical of myself, like in every way. Just looking in the mirror immediately, like everything is a critique, 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 critique. Um,
Wow.
Yeah, I'd say it just turned into a control to be the best, and that's very easy to do as a ballet dancer. Many, many ballet dancers go through that anyways, no matter what length they take it. Um, but yeah.
Can you tell me from your point of view, what do you think caused, because I know you said many dancers go through this, but what do you think caused all that perfectionism in your mind?
To be honest, I think I'm just prone, very prone to perfectionism and obsessive compulsive. Like, if someone tells me I'm good, that sticks with me, and I almost want to like outprove that I'm even better than good, and then better than good, and then better than good. So, even a compliment could be detrimental to me in some sort of twisted way. Did you ask where you think it comes from?
Yeah. But that kind of makes sense. Like
Mhm.
you people tell you you're good and then you want to like prove to them that you're even better,
Yeah,
which is cool. It's probably what even actually makes you better, right? Because you're not only competing with yourself, but you're competing with their idea of how good you are, which I'm going to show you I'm better than than how good you think I am. Watch, right?
yeah, it was like this twisted thing my mind would do where it's like, oh, they said you're good. Let's challenge that a little bit more because you're not actually good. Like it was like some sort of
Mm,
like that
okay, so
mentality from when I was like 10. It started.
oh wow.
Yeah.
What happened when you were 10?
Well, I remember I was always very muscular, and the ballet body is long and slender and like, traditionally. So one of the older girls was saying like, "Oh, she has too much muscle," like, because I was actually like better than her at that age. So that kind of came out of her like, "Oh, but she has too much muscle to be a ballet dancer." Um, and I remember I was like shaking it off, but then around the same time, my family was going through the financial hardship of losing the orange groves and things, and we had to move houses and stuff. And it didn't feel related, but I'm sure it was. But I just remember one day, like, my dad was making dinner, and then, like, all of a sudden, the solution in my mind to, like, all the problems was just, like, just don't eat. Like, don't eat anymore because then it'll solve that you're too muscular, you'll lose weight, you'll, whatever, and you can control it, and then you can be the best. It's kind of like boom, boom, boom. And then I remember like I was crying so hard in bed that night. Like I think I was 11 at this time. Actually, I'm not quite sure, 11 or 12. And I wanted to eat this piece of broccoli so bad that my dad make, and like my brain was like nope, nope, nope. And then from then on, I was like always disordered about food. Like it was never just an easy thing to eat, no matter what. Like I was always thoughts of like, is this in my budget? Am I controlling this? And then it just got more cynical, more dark, worse, worse, worse as I aged into my teen years. So that's kind of where it started.
Wow. So not only did like the girl in your class tell you you were too muscular, which made you feel like, oh man, I need to like lose some of my muscle, right, and be more slim.
Now
Um,
I'm like,
right. Now you want to be thicker. But also you said your family was losing the orange groves.
hmm
So you had your family owned orange groves in Florida, and during the Great Recession, I think, right? 2007?
2008, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you were 10-ish at that time, were you? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, you started to it wasn't it was the girl telling you you had too much muscle, but it was also a combination of literal like how much money do we have in our
hmm
family? Like so you
I
felt there
didn't understand at the time, though, I will say, about money. It was more like something was happening. We were moving. I knew we were losing something, but they wouldn't really say what.
Oh, whoa. So like you had the anxiety of something was going on in your family, you were losing something, but you didn't know what until later. So
Yeah.
like you felt like there was problems, and so not only in your mind was there a problem now with your like weight or your body, but there was also a problem in your family with loss, and those two things clashing together made you be like, "Oh my gosh, like what can I do to control the situation? Oh, I can stop eating because it's gonna make me thinner and solve my, personal problem with now what I think about myself, but it's also going to help my family survive, even
Yeah.
though you didn't even know at the time what the situation was because your family didn't even tell you.
Mhm.
Did I get that?
Exactly. Yeah, you got that.
Is there
And it
more about
feels like yes, there's more. It feels like at every moment of anxiety or tension or conflict within myself or with what I'm doing, that my first instinct is to disappear, like as hard and as loudly as possible, like to disappear, which yeah, which makes sense because of all of that.
Wow. So your first instinct whenever something's going on wrong around you is to disappear. And I love that you said as hard and as loud as possible because that is so interesting. Like disappearing is like the opposite of loud, right? So,
Exactly.
so tell me about that, like push and pull. Like why do you have to do it loudly?
I think it's just I want to make a statement, or it's probably a beg for love or attention, um, or safety is what I understand of it now. But for the longest time, I didn't understand it because it's like everything I went to try to go do, dance wise, creative wise, or otherwise, as soon as I'm met with the anxiety conflict, it's like I disappear, but in a way that I want everyone to know that I'm gone or that I'm retreating or that I'm going down in some sort of way. But it wasn't intentional at all. Like it was completely subconscious. But looking back, that's the clear pattern. So it's very complex and tense. And it's hard to unlock like the actual key to overcoming that. Yeah.
Wow. So I just think it's crazy that those are two huge things, with you're I mean, as a woman, 10, I mean, you're almost adolescent, right? But body image issues that young is crazy. I didn't have body image issues until probably 17.
Hmm.
Well, actually, no, I take that back.
Still young.
I did. Like, I was always afraid of being fat because my family was all
Hmm.
obese, and my parents would call us fat all the time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So that was what my thing was like, let me solve my problem before it comes a problem. Like, it was like a let me
Oh, that makes
prevent
sense.
myself from being like all of them. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
I just didn't. I don't know. And I relate to your dual crazy experience too because also around that time, yes, my parents were getting divorced. My two things were like my parents were getting divorced around 2008, yeah, that time. And
Mhm,
then also I had my first like traumatizing sexual experience.
mhm,
And those two things made me like become hyper feminine and want to look a certain way to
mhm,
be like enough for men to, to get them to love me and like worship me literally because my dad left
mhm.
and all this stuff. So that started my little complex thing. So I can
That makes
relate.
so much
I can
sense.
relate
Yeah.
to the level of trauma, in a different way, but
Mhm.
it's really difficult going through multiple hard things at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, and I also want to go back to what you said about you feel like it takes a lot to unlock the patterns that you still go through now.
Mhm.
And I know that like we've talked about lots of patterns and stuff together before.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything on the top of your mind that you want to mention as far as patterns, or maybe even like what
Mm.
you have uncovered that helps you with some of the patterns?
Well, on the top of my mind, it's like I noticed that there's almost this like vicious, dark woman creature inside me that's like always trying to sabotage anytime that I feel um, that I'm going towards a path of success or that I'm going towards a path of more love or just more happiness for myself. It's like it comes in and wants me to disappear to the back of the room or disappear back into an eating disorder or disappear back into, just literally retract and disappear. And it does feel quite vicious in my mind or aggressive, like um And it's like this duality. So I'd say I noticed this pattern where I can get to a place where I'm like overcoming it, and then it like overtakes and I almost forget what it was like to even overcome it. So it's kind of like that over long stretches of my life so far. I have great periods where I'm floating high and I'm like really understanding myself and able to be active and participating in my life. And then there's other valleys where like it's like so hard to to get on top of that voice or that tendency to disappear, or to feel like I don't have any place in this world at all. And I think a lot of people could relate to that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's hard to it's hard to separate yourself from the saboteur, right? So I
Yeah.
love that like you're recognizing it and you're able to like understand like maybe you're still not I mean, right, let's talk about perfectionism, but you're not as like perfect as you would like to be at like conquering it, right? When it does.
Yeah. Another loop.
Right, 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 which puts you in another spiral of perfectionism, which is like the very thing you're trying to get out of. But I do I do feel that like in our lives we go through at young ages we go through external patterns, right? That then we internalize and then we keep like I guess the saboteur, the demon keeps repeating, trying to get us to repeat. And I can obviously relate to that. I mean,
No,
like
you can.
trying to quit like cigarettes 100 times or become sober for like 10 years or like stop my eating disorder. The only reason I stopped my eating disorder is 'cause I got hospitalized and had to like they told me I should have been dead a month ago and gave me a blood transfusion and was like, you literally have no oxygen or hemoglobin in your blood. So like if I wouldn't have got that bad, I wouldn't have stopped. So I definitely understand. And I think like something I've heard recently is like it's one of my friends used to one of my friends used to say like it's not like it sucks that it's not that bad yet, meaning like
Mm.
it only gets better when it gets worse. Like if you hit the bottom of rock bottom, that's when the human race can literally finally want to change. But until then, most people, because of our patterns, traumas, all that, we just keep at that like this thing, right?
Because
So
we can stay just comfortable enough with the pain. The pain doesn't outweigh.
yes, we become comfortable, yeah, with the pain. That's a good question. Do you have a moment in your life where you feel like you really hit rock bottom that helped you to finally be like, okay, I'm quitting this eating disorder or whatever, I'm quitting dance, whatever it is, just like something that was like pivotal for you?
Yeah, I mean, I suffer from a lot of memory loss during that time because I was so malnourished. So the timeline's kind of like really blurry for me, but I do remember my dance studio had asked me to stop coming to dance because I was a medical threat now because my weight was like plummeting down into like the 60s and it was just bad, bad, bad. And like
Did you say
I injured my back. Huh?
the 60s?
Yeah, dude, I was like
I don't
getting
think I've ever met
69,
you.
68, 60. Like it was bad. It was bad. Poor baby girl. But
You're so strong. You're so strong. Okay, sorry I interrupted
thanks.
you though. Keep going. You're like, I know
No, it's all good.
you are.
You are very strong too though, and you know it.
We help each other.
So we we together. Um but yeah, I injured my back as well during that time because my body couldn't handle nothing. So I was like bedridden and so skinny that I was skin and bones, and got asked to not come to my dance studio. Um, and other things with my family. It was just like I was like at a complete loss basically, and I remember I was able to write a letter to myself, and it was basically to choose to live for dance. And I still have it like right over there in my drawer somewhere. I actually don't know where it is exactly, but it's over there somewhere. Um, and I remember that was the most emotional thing because it's the first time I actually realized that I am not the disorder. Um, and I like sobbed on my bathroom floor that night. Like I was like, please, like just begging to be better. Like I was like, I'll do anything, I'll do anything. To whoever was listening, like it was like that. And like from that point on, of course, it was like an extremely crazy journey to get to a place of stability in my mind to do with restriction and food and weight and control and all that stuff. But from that moment on, I at least made the intention, I made the intention, and that was enough to get me to that next 5%, the next 5%, the next 5%. But it definitely wasn't linear. Like I went backwards, I went forwards, I went backwards, I went forwards. But that was the pivotal moment. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So you had an injury, you got basically kicked out of your dance class, and family stuff was going on, and you chose to live for dance,
Yeah.
meaning that you weren't really maybe gonna live much longer or didn't have a reason or something like that. And so you made a choice that day, I'm gonna live for dance because you love dance, which is so
Yeah.
beautiful. It's almost like it tore you apart and then it also healed you, right?
Yeah. I always say dance saved me. Yeah.
Like, how did you integrate back into a healthy version of yourself as a dancer?
Well, it was a long journey, and I still integrated so many aspects of control over my healing. I wasn't able to just be like, I want freedom and I'm gonna just be me now and let my gifts come out and whatever. It was still like I made myself stick to an extremely strict regimen, like, or regime. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
regimen,
I think it's regimen. I think you got it.
whichever one it is. Um, I was like, oh, you can eat breakfast, but you also have to run 5 miles before. And you also have to eat vegan because now you can't eat anything that's unhealthy. And then I was like, okay, but I was convinced that I was getting healthier. And of course, I was eating now because there was a point in my life that like I was eating like maybe an apple a week, like it was like there was like nothing going in my body. So, eating vegan helped me actually eat. It let me, satiate my mind's rules enough to be like, all right, you can eat, but it has to be in this way. Um, so anyway, that was kind of like the beginning of the journey. I was like vegan, I think for like 7 years actually, from the point that I started healing until I stopped being vegan about 2, 3 years ago because it was no longer working for my hormones or my body. But that's a different story.
How did you get back to dance? Like, because you said dance was your reason to live. So how did you get back to dance in a healthy way?
Well, I remember like I was out of the studio for I don't know if it was months or weeks or I have no idea. Like I cannot remember that exact time. But I think it was a couple months and then I returned because I was able to say like, "Hey, look, I'm eating again. I want to get better. I'd like to come back."
Mm.
And I just started taking ballet again and I remember like my dance teacher loved me and cared for me very much and she would always like, ask me to sit out and go have a snack or like, like stuff like that. So I think she was trying to support my healing. Um and she was, but it always made me be like cuz I just wanted to like do what I wanted to do always.
You almost didn't want someone's support because you wanted to be on your own healing time, your own healing journey kind of thing.
Yeah. Like I remember I wanted support so bad, but any type of or support I would receive would almost worsen me for a couple of days until I was able to like it was like a strange pattern as well that I noticed.
So you felt like you couldn't receive support, like you didn't want it or you weren't worthy of it, or was it like you didn't even accept that you had a problem at the time, so you were like, "Why are you supporting me?"
Actually, that sounds more like it. Once like a year and a half maybe passed and I was like still on my veganism, still very skinny, but not dying skinny, but still very too skinny. Like um yeah, I feel that sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah,
Uh
no, I was just trying to get to the root of like why you didn't want to accept the support. And
Mm.
because it felt like you went back pretty soon and you were like, "Hey, look, I'm healing." Oh, because you were trying to prove to them, "Oh, you think
Oh,
I'm this? I'm gonna do you one up," and you're basically trying to prove that you're healed so quickly. Oh my god, this is everything. You were trying to prove that you were healed so quickly so you could get back to dance.
yeah, exactly. And like I almost sat myself on like a ego trip that I was like that I
Dude,
survived an eating disorder and that now I'm like, you know, able to help others suddenly and I was the one who needed help still.
we're talking about you're getting removed from something and then having to, like, "I'm healed," perform your way back.
Yeah,
It came from this.
exactly.
Came from this.
Yeah,
Because you were like, "Dance is my reason to live." Now you may have another reason to live, but back then dance was your reason
indeed.
to live, and you got removed from it against your will. And by the way, because of something somebody in the organization said to you that you took as, like, truth, right?
Mm,
Then you had to, like, perform your way back so you could get back to it quickly because it was your reason to live.
literally perform too.
Yes, you had to be like, "I am healed. I am the one. I know everything. I can teach
Oh
you how."
yeah, it just hit like I had to be perfect and like show that I'm
Yes,
healed.
because you were under the scope, microscope.
Yeah, like watched,
Yeah,
like every
but
move.
and that's probably why you didn't wanna accept the people's help or, there's something off about it because you were trying to be like, "No, I'm good. What are you talking about?" Or
Yeah,
like, or like just show that you didn't need help kinda thing, maybe.
yeah.
I don't know.
Even though I was dying for it. Wow, that's so true. And it just perpetuates the perfectionism and it makes you feel so defeated when you need help or when you have a setback or when you have an inevitable and anxious moment within yourself or whatever it is because then your performance is over. They see that
Oof,
you are that, you know.
yeah. Ooh, how does that feel for you? Because I'm like, you were a performer from such a young age and like you were watched as, being great. And so tell me about like the psychology of that. That's crazy. Basically just said you didn't like people seeing who you really were, through the performance. And I'm just kind of drawing my own conclusion that it's
Mhm.
probably because you were always, you're performing from such a young age. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
how has that psychologically affected your relationships growing up and even now?
I'd say again it's just the perfectionism where I just have this like version of me that's ready to be on stage that doesn't have issues, that doesn't have anxiety, that doesn't have depression, that doesn't have worries, um, is emotionally balanced, all the things. And then as soon as I'm a human and that cracks, it not only, I feel like a normally balanced human would be like able to feel their emotions, but then kind of able to like regulate, see it from a bird's eye, and just understand that it's not the end of the world. But for me, it feels like the end of the world because, as soon as I messed up on stage, for example, when I was younger, end of the world. As soon as I bombed an audition when I was younger, end of the world. Not because I wanted the audition so bad or because I wanted to win on stage or to be the best on stage, but because it represented that version of me didn't actually exist that that I think. So it separates myself from myself and then I it's like I know myself so well because I study it all the time and I'm trying to figure it out, but at the same time, it's like I expect so much perfection. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if I'm explaining it right, but that disconnect is there for me so heavily. So I'm
Yeah,
trying to integrate all of that now. Let's say that's how it applies now. Um, yeah.
that's super profound. Like you have a version of yourself who pretty much is perfect, right? Um, and it's kind of like you can pull that off for so long, but the second there's a crack and like especially the second someone like sees that crack, it feels like the end of the world. And you feel like a normally regulated human would be able to just like zoom out, see it from a bird's eye view and be like, okay, it's not the end of the world. It's just it's a human thing. But you, since you were conditioned to it is the end of the world in a performance, you were probably reprimanded. You probably, would get pulled off stage or like whatever, just all kinds of things. Who even knows?
I
But
pulled myself off stage.
right, well, that's something too. You would pull yourself off stage because you realized in that moment that you actually weren't perfect. You weren't the version of yourself that you thought existed. Do you feel like you hold other people to those same standards, and then when you see through their cracks, you feel like, dang, nobody's perfect, the world sucks? Like, is it kind of depressing? Because everybody's human, right? And so, do you try to, do you look at other people that way too?
I'd say no, because it's more so what came to mind is perfectionism is a disease, right? It's like, that's just what I want to say, first of all. Second of all, it alienates you from even being able to feel like you're connected to anyone else anyway, because you're so worried about like not slipping up yourself and being 100% on your game yourself. Um, I've only recently been able to really open my heart and feel vulnerable and connect with others, but yeah, I'd say growing up, like I was very isolated. I put myself to be alone on purpose all the time because of that like disconnect. Because it's not that I didn't love my friends or that I didn't love my dance teachers and see the people around me. I love them very much. They're great, but I'd always prefer to be isolated and alone in the moments I needed connection the most. And I think it's because of that somehow.
Mm. So now you feel like you're just kind of like you, and you used to identify as a dancer.
Mm.
Do you feel, did I get that?
Yeah, you got that. Like, yeah, it took so long, but I was so heavily attached to the idea of being a dancer, the identity of being a dancer. And any other dancer will know that it's not just like, you and any other sport you play, obviously, but or any art you do, you kind of become it in a sense. But growing up dancing, you really identify with it so strongly. So it's really hard to break up with it basically. Um yeah, but I'd say that I successfully did. Yeah.
Now that you're successfully broken up with dance, with your idea of what dance was for you, do you ever see it coming back into your life again?
Absolutely. And that's what I love, that now I have the authority and the control to put dance in its place in my life instead of letting it like basically infect me with all kinds of darkness and diseases and stuff. Yeah, I feel like movement is part of me. Like I said from the very beginning, I was a mover. I loved art and music and movement, and oh, I'm gonna cry. And that part of me will never be lost. And I can't wait to integrate it into my future projects and into my life. I just don't see myself being a part of the industry in the way that I was um, at this current moment. Yeah.
Wow. I think that's so powerful, and like it is forward thinking too. That's why I wanted to have you as a guest to share your story, because when we become obsessed with the idea of success, right? As most, especially Americans are, we will do
Mm.
anything to get there, even if it's like really killing us.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, when you zoom out, like, what is that even is that even your real version of success, right? And for you, it sounds like
Exactly.
maybe it was for a little while, right? But over time, now you feel being more balanced and being able to have different areas of your life where you're growing and thriving is just as important, if not more important to you than your idea of what your dance career would look like in the industry, at least. So as you continue forward, movement's always been a part of your life. Dance will always be in your heart, and you want to continue, using movement and dance in whatever ways you see fit. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's like really a testimony to, going into the depths of your soul for the thing that you love, being broken open pretty much, and then learning how to grow, heal, and integrate everything, and then do it on your terms. And I think for this current moment in time, right, it's 2025 and everything is like shifting more towards that like entrepreneurial like wave, and
Mhm.
industries are kind of crashing down right now. So that's really, really cool, and I think the same way you're trailblazing for yourself, you're gonna be an inspiration and a trailblazer for other people to watch and be like, "Whoa, I wanna do it." How can I do what she's doing for me, right?
Yeah.
For my own life, and I think that's something I wanna share with you too, is, like, you were fearless with your pursuit towards your own direction. And although you were so integrated into the industry, you removed yourself out with like, I don't want to say ease, but at least it looked like that. And and yeah, I'm sure it wasn't easy at all. But but I was inspired by you to do a similar thing and to really find out what I actually wanted, what my soul wanted more than my mind,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's why I'm saying you're very powerful, you're very inspiring, and I know that whatever you choose to do next, you're gonna inspire a lot of people.
Thank you for helping me, just guiding me through that, because I've actually never looked at like the timeline
Mm.
so clearly. I'm just now realizing that, like, oh, the version of me that was a dancer is also still sitting in me right now. So it's like
Yeah.
connected, but like, you know, looking at it from that bird's eye view, if you will.
This episode is brought to you by Dialogue Life Skills, the world's scalable solution to the teen and young adult mental health crisis. Dialogue is using carefully structured sentence stems during a conversation to make sure everyone feels safe and heard to reduce conflict. To learn more, visit dialoguelifeskills.com and follow Is There More World everywhere. Thanks for listening.